Hi, I'm Mark Powers. Welcome to This Old House. If your deck is weathered and looks like it needs replacing, you might be able to salvage it with a resurfacing treatment. As long as the deck is structurally sound, it's a good option. We used Deck Restore, an extra thick water-based paint with sand mixed in that creates a protective non-slip surface and extends the life of old deck boards. To start, clear the deck and sweep away any debris. Keep in mind that the key to the project is prepping the surface thoroughly so the project adheres well. You'll also need a clear forecast. The coating has to dry 48 hours before taking on any rain. Next, inspect the deck and railing for rot, splinters, and raised fasteners. Sink any raised nails below the surface of the board with a hammer and nail set, and drive in any protruding screws. Use a putty knife to remove any splinters, replace any rotten sections, and while you're at it, any warped balusters. Next, protect your house's siding with plastic sheeting or tarps. To protect your plants, wet them down with water so they'll absorb less potentially harmful runoff when you strip and clean your deck. You'll start by stripping all the flat surfaces. This step is critical, even if the boards look old, cracked, and dried out. Fill a pump sprayer, put on protective gear including goggles, rubber boots, and gloves. Spray the boards down in sections, working on about 20 square feet at a time. Get the tops of the rails too. When the deck is covered, grab a push broom and work the stripper into the wood. Let it stand for 15 minutes before rinsing. To remove the stripper, use a pressure washer with a 40-degree tip set between 1500 and 2500 psi for pressure-treated deck boards. Work in long, controlled strokes, pushing the solution off the end of each board. Be sure to keep the tip about 6 inches away from the boards to prevent cutting into the wood. Once the deck is rinsed, while you wait for the boards to dry, rinse off the surrounding plants with a garden hose. Use a pole sander and 50 grit paper to sand the deck boards in the direction of the wood grain. Make sure to sand railings and balusters too. Now comes the moment of truth. It's time to test for any residual coatings. Pour some water on different areas of the surface, high traffic, low traffic, shady and sunny areas, and so on. The water should soak into the wood quickly in less than a minute. If the water beads up, you'll need to strip it and sand it again. Next, the deck needs a final cleaning. Load a pump sprayer with detergent mixed with the proper ratio of water according to the directions. Spray the mixture on your boards and work it in with a push broom, then rinse the deck with your pressure washer and plain water. Once the wood is dry, fill any gouges or holes with an acrylic caulk using a 5-in-1 tool to scrape off the excess, then allow it to set. In addition to holes, you can use the caulk to fill any wide cracks. Before you coat the deck boards, cover all the vertical surfaces, like the balusters, with a solid color stain. If your deck requires more than a gallon, it's a good idea to combine equal parts from multiple cans to ensure the color is evenly mixed. Brush the stain into the gaps between deck boards as well, where it will be hard to reach with the Restore coating, which is very thick. Once the stain dries, look for any missed gaps or cracks and fill them with caulk. When it dries, you can hit those areas with a second coat of stain. Next up is the resurfacing coat. This deck called for 4 big containers, so we used 2 clean 5-gallon buckets to mix the batches together. Fit a paddle mixer through the lid of the first container and load it into your drill. Mix the coating thoroughly, then pour a small amount into an empty bucket. Continue to do that with the remaining containers, then pour the mixtures back and forth between the different buckets to ensure an even color. Back on the deck, load a paint roller with the resurfacing coat. Make sure to use the specialty roller covers designed to work with Deck Restore. Using a regular roller, even a long nap roller, will not give you good results. Load up the roller as much as possible and roll the coating into the boards, pushing a thick bead of the paint into the cracks and checks of the board. Do not roll back and forth. That motion will lift the coating you just applied. For any cup boards, roll across their width. Use a putty knife or a 5-in-1 to break the film between the boards. For surfaces like steps and handrails, a small roller works best. Work the coat on in multiple passes in the same direction, working quickly to keep the coating from dripping. Once the first coat is down, allow it to dry 4 to 6 hours or until the surface is no longer tacky. When the first coat dries, apply the second the same way, again making sure to push a bead of the coating in front of the roller. We found that using a narrow roller cover was easier in some cases. It also helps to ensure less of the coating gets trapped between your deck boards. If you'd like a smoother finish on your handrails, you can back brush the second coat to smooth it out. When the coating dries, you're all set. Just make sure to wait 3 to 5 days before replacing any furniture. Then it's time to call up some friends and have a cookout.